Today I'm going to show you the first phase of assembling your rocket. This will be done in 3 phases. Basically, it's based around glue times, allowing glue to dry at certain intervals. You're going to need to pay attention to this because there are some things that I do in this demonstration that are different than what they show you in the instructions. So, let's begin. First of all, opening your bag. You'll need a pair of scissors, and I would recommend cutting the top off of your bag like this. That way you still have the bag to store your stuff. So we're going to pull out the instructions. Some of the kits have 2 sets of instructions. This one is in 3 languages. This is English, Spanish, and I think Italian. There's another set of, some of the kits will have a second set of instructions that are in German, French, and Portuguese or something else. So just be aware of that. So we open up the instructions to the first page. And this section I will follow along with the instructions. So the very first thing it's telling us is we are going to prepare the fins. So the fins are balsa wood, and you'll notice that they are laser cut. And so we go ahead and gently break them apart. And these pieces are scrap, they can be thrown away. Now, you'll notice that the edges of the fins are burnt. That's because they are cut with a laser. And where they are attached, they're not burnt, but they are rough. They leave little nubs, and we need to get rid of those little nubs. So for that, we're going to use a piece of sandpaper, and we put the fins together. We do all 3 of them at the same time. So I've got my 3 fins. I'm going to put them down on the paper. I'm going to go back and forth a couple times, and then I'm going to flip them the other way. That evens out the pressure. And I'm not really worried about getting the burn off, but I am concerned about getting them smooth. So I do each side. Again, rotate it around. And that will get the fins, the edges smooth. Get rid of the nubs. Somebody in another class asked me what a nub is, and it's like a little bump. Okay, so I've got all 3 or all 4 sides sanded. I'm going to set those off to the side. The next step is assembling the engine mount. And for that, we're going to need this little green tube, and there's a little white tube that is supposed to be in here. A lot of times it hides in the rocket tube. And we're going to need one other little piece, and that is in with the parachute is a little metal piece. We will need that. So I'm just simply clipping, make sure you don't clip the parachute. I'm clipping the corner of the bag so that I can get in and get, and actually sometimes, and they have done that in this one, they have put that in, no, it's free. There it is. Again, we can put everything else back in our bag. We will need a ruler, and it tells us in the instructions to measure 3/8 of an inch or 10 millimeters and put a little line. So I put a mark right here at my 10 millimeter mark. or 3/8 of an inch if you don't have a metric ruler. Next, you're going to need to use a knife. This I would get mom and dad's help with, but we just put a little cut into our engine tube, and we're going to need this metal piece, and you'll notice it's got a spring on the one end and the other end it's 90 degrees. So I'm going to take the piece that's 90 degrees and I am going to put it into the hole that I just cut. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the green outer body tube and I'm going to put it down over top of this. Now, sometimes there's a little ridge on the inside of this tube. So if there is, you'll need to take some sandpaper and just kind of go around that edge to smooth it out. And then we take it and we slide it over our tube. Now, we don't put it all the way on. We want it about the middle. You don't have to measure it, just eyeball it. But at this point, I'm going to stop and I am going to take my Elmer's glue and I'm going to put around the bottom of it the direction that I'm sliding. I'm sliding it in that direction. So that's the side I want to put the glue on. And I don't need very much. Just a little bead of glue around there. And then I slide it forward. So it's about halfway. And I've slid it over the glue. So that glue will glue this piece to the rocket engine tube. At this point, I take and I put this in my bag. Don't worry, it won't stick to anything else. And now I get my rocket tube out. And we're ready to apply the fins. And this will really be as far as we go today once we get the fins on, because at that point we need to let the fins dry, we need to let the rocket engine tube dry before we can move on. Now, for this step, I do this a little differently. I find what the instructions call for to be somewhat confusing. So you'll want to open up your instructions to the next page where it says attaching fins, and you'll see a diagram. Get that on camera here. Right here. And that will allow you to equally space your fins. So I put the rocket tube on here and I mark it. Right here, just a small mark, and I rotate that around to the next mark, and I mark the other one, and I rotate it again. Now the two marks that I just placed on there should be lining up with these three gray lines, and then I put a third line. Now, if you look, you can see I have one there, one there, one there. They are evenly spaced. Now I need to draw lines that are parallel to one another, meaning they never intersect. And I need to do that on this tube. There's a little trick for that. So I go back here to a door jamb, and I put my tube in the door jamb, and I put the mark right here, and I draw a line about 2 inches. You don't have to measure it, doesn't have to be accurate, but just kind of guess where 2 inches is. And then one more. Now you'll see when you look at the tube, you will see the lines equally spaced. Now, this next step tends to be the hardest part of the process. Take a piece of scrap paper and put a bead of glue on it. You're going to have to make a decision on how you want to affix the fins to your rocket. Do you want them to be like that? Do you want them to be like that? Or this? This is what the directions tell you. Personally, I tend not to do that because that area has less glue space. And I definitely recommend against that because there's very little glue space to hold the fins on. So I usually go either like this or like this. In reality, which way you go is not really important. What is important is that the wings are on there straight. That's what's important. So I'm going to put this set on like this, and I want this point right here, where these two come together right there. That point is going to be even with the bottom of my rocket. When I do this, I hold my rocket straight up and down. I drag this end through the glue so that I get a bead of glue all along the edge. And then I take it and I affix it to the line and I hold it firmly for about 20 seconds. You can count 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007, 1008, 1009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And then I am gently going to let go. And I am going to hold my rocket upright. I'm not twisting it around. I'm not moving it. I'm gently rotating it around to the next line. If you do this, your rockets, your engines will, or your fins will stay. If you move it around a lot, they will fall off. If you don't use enough glue, they will fall off. If you use too much glue, they will slide down. So just a bead along the edge. And again, I'm going to put this one over here. I'm not going to count this time. I'm simply going to watch the second hand on the clock. And I'm going to hold this for about 20 seconds. And that'll give it a few seconds to actually for the glue to grab hold. And there we are. And finally now the last fin. Now, you want to make sure you don't put them on, you want to make sure you put them on all the same. There we go. That way they're all the same right there. So last one, I pull it through the glue. I affix it to the rocket. Yeah, I look at my clock and I wait about 20 seconds. And there we go. Okay. And you'll notice that they are sticking. Put this someplace where it won't get knocked over. The first hour is critical. After about an hour, the glue is dried. Tomorrow, or the next video, I will show you how to reinforce the fins, how to install the launch lug, the straw with which the rocket goes on the launch pad, and I'll show you how to put the rocket engine tube in, and I'll show you how to attach the parachute. Okay. After that drives 24 hours, then I will show you how to install the parachute.